Last night was one of the worst nights because I didn't have them in their beds. And I don't want to go through that another night without them.
In a missing persons case, the first voice we listen to is always the one who makes the call. But here, just one day after contacting police, the mother of the 2 missing children walked away. Silent. No press conferences, no presence at search operations, no further statements. The question arose immediately. Why did she leave? The police made no public judgment. The media didn't accuse. But the public wondered. Because most mothers don't walk away when their children are still missing, especially not when there's no proof they're alive or dead. In many similar cases, post-event behavior is not just a clue. It's a mirror into what might be unfolding beneath the surface. She left the house with her youngest child, left the area, never returned, never spoke out, never stood beside the children's stepfather, never issued a message to the public. In the middle of a nationwide search, the one person who may have known the most chose to step out of view. There are many possibilities. Maybe it was psychological collapse. Maybe a reflex of self-protection. Maybe she knows something, but isn't ready to say. And maybe it was something else entirely. This series draws no conclusions, but it walks through each possibility. 5 theories, 5 different paths, all stemming from the same question. Why did the mother leave at the very moment she was needed most? Not all silence is self-defense, and not everyone who walks away during a crisis has something to hide. Some people, when pain becomes unbearable, simply cannot speak. And when guilt, panic, and fear strike all at once, the only thing they know how to do is disappear from the place where it all began. One of the earliest theories suggested that the mother of Lilly and Jack, Malehya, may have suffered a deep psychological breakdown. She was the one who woke up, realized the children were gone, made the emergency call, then took her youngest child and left the home. Quietly. Without joining the largest search operation Nova Scotia had seen in years. Police never labeled her behavior as uncooperative. They simply noted, she left. Some psychologists have observed that in extreme cases of child-related trauma, some single mothers go through what is known as reality refusal. They don't scream, they don't plead, they don't cling, they withdraw, they shut down, and they isolate, even from those trying to help. Not because they don't care, but because their minds can't absorb another cut. Some have pointed to the possibility of a medical history. Prolonged stress, the weight of single motherhood, social isolation, and living off-grid. These are conditions that can push a person into silent collapse, a breakdown without sound. And in that moment, when everything becomes too much, they may choose to walk away from it all, even while 2 children remain unaccounted for. To be clear, law enforcement has not accused Malehya of anything. Her name has not been listed as a suspect. But to many, her absence feels like a void that cannot be ignored. If this mother is truly just someone lost in overwhelming grief, then leaving is not a crime. It is a warning bell for the fragile state of mental health that so many women on society's margins quietly endure. But even still, that kind of fracture may bury the truth forever if no one stands close enough to hear her speak. Not everyone walks away out of weakness. Some leave because they've seen something they're not ready to repeat. In child disappearance cases, the perpetrator isn't always a stranger. Sometimes it's someone inside the house. Sometimes it's the person who stepped out of the room, just as everything began. This theory doesn't place blame. It asks a difficult question. Could the mother have known something and chosen silence? On May 2nd, Malehya called police to report her children missing. On May 3rd, she left the area. There was no official statement, no return to the search site, no standing beside the children's stepfather. Since then, she hasn't joined any public efforts to help find Lily or Jack. Some say, if she truly knew nothing, her behavior seems unusually distant. But if she did know something, and left intentionally, then what could possibly be holding her back? Maybe it's fear. Maybe she saw something she couldn't explain, a gesture, a conversation, a detail too small to prove but too disturbing to ignore. In criminal psychology, this is known as the passive protector, someone who hasn't committed the act but knows something wrong happened nearby, and instead of reporting it, they withdraw quietly. Another possibility, she's protecting someone, a relative, a partner, someone who once helped her through a dark time. In such cases, a mother may fall into a profound moral conflict, torn between telling the truth and preserving a relationship she believes is more valuable than clarity. It isn't right, but it's not unheard of. Law enforcement has made no accusations, but the public is left asking, when silence stretches this long after such a loss, is it still just emotion, or has it become a decision? A mother reports her children missing, then never returns to the scene, never speaks to the public, never says another word. And in that silence, maybe a piece of the truth remains buried. Not everyone who walks away is running. Sometimes they simply step aside, so they don't have to stand too close to something they can't bring themselves to name. They don't commit the harm, don't lay a finger on anyone. But by choosing silence, they withhold a part of the truth, hidden in the shadows where no investigation light has yet reached. In the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, a quiet question has surfaced behind the mother's silence. Could she not be the perpetrator, but still complicit in what happened? No one has accused Malehya of a crime, but the fact remains. She was the first to call police, and the first to leave. Just one day after reporting her children missing, she removed herself from the scene. She's made no public statements, no interviews. She hasn't returned to help in the search for the children who once called her mother. In most child disappearance cases, mothers are at the emotional center. Not because they're suspects, but because they're shattered. They cling to every lead, speak to the media, plead with the public. But here, the only person known to have seen the children last chose to disappear. And that absence, unexplained, unaddressed, left a space this third theory now walks into. Criminologists have a term, complicit by silence. These are individuals who don't leave fingerprints, who never appear in security footage, but who know. They may have witnessed something, heard something, felt something shift. And rather than confront it, they retreat, out of fear, out of love, out of a bond that, if exposed, might collapse everything they've built. In infamous past cases, Susan Smith, who staged a carjacking to cover her role in her son's deaths, or Casey Anthony, who didn't report her daughter missing for 31 days, there was a pattern. The story started reasonable, understandable. But somewhere inside it was a silence that grew too heavy to ignore. We still don't know what happened to Lily and Jack, but we do know that their mother left too early, while too many questions were still unanswered, while the police were just beginning to ask them. We don't have conclusions, only distance between those searching for truth and the one who stepped away from it. That mother may not have done anything wrong. She might be a witness torn by loyalty, fear, and emotional debt. But in an investigation where every eye is fixed on the place the children vanished, perhaps it's time someone turned around, toward the person who quietly chose to watch from outside. A theory that cannot be ruled out, but isn't easy to accept. When all investigative paths become blurred, sometimes the most improbable explanation turns out to be the truth. Because if every sign leads back to the same circle of suspicion, then nothing can be off limits. So what if the mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, was not just a witness, not just a grieving figure, but the very one who carried out the act? What if the disappearance of Lilly and Jack wasn't an accident, wasn't an abduction, but instead a staged act of murder orchestrated from within? The person who knew the scene best, the one who had first access to it, the one who could erase evidence without raising suspicion, could only be someone closest to them. She reported the children missing on May 2nd. The very next day, May 3rd, she left the scene with her youngest child. No one stopped her. No one questioned her on the spot. Because at that time, everyone believed a mother couldn't possibly do something like that. But what if history has already proven the opposite? What would her motive be? No one knows for sure. Maybe it was family conflict. Maybe the overwhelming pressure of raising multiple small children. Maybe a hidden psychological breakdown no one else knew about. In many such cases, filicide doesn't stem from hatred, but from total mental collapse or a desperate and extreme belief that she needed to free herself. Suppose she did it. Suppose she made the children vanish, not because she was threatened, but because she knew the police would soon find out. In that scenario, leaving early was a calculated move to create distance, disrupt the timeline of investigation, and perhaps even start a new life elsewhere under a different name. As time passed, her silence began to resemble something else. Not grief, but control. A deliberate severing of all ties, as if she were trying to cool the narrative until it faded into obscurity. And if this theory is true, then maybe the children were already gone before the search even began. And the most horrifying part isn't the disappearance itself, but the fact that everyone may have been looking for something their mother already knew would never be found. In criminal law, there is a moment when the innocent are most vulnerable. That brief window when they haven't been charged, yet they've already become the center of suspicion. In that space, every look becomes scrutiny, every question carries a tone, and every movement, no matter how small, can be twisted into meaning. For people unaccustomed to living under public judgment, the instinct isn't to fight back. It's to step aside, to vanish from the frame. Not to escape justice, but because they no longer believe justice will reach them in time. Theory 4 suggests the mother of Lilly and Jack didn't walk away out of guilt, but out of fear of being misread. A fear that if she lingered even a moment too long, she'd be labeled, not tried. On May 2nd, she called the police. On May 3rd, she left the area. No public statement, no press appearance, no search efforts, no standing beside the officers combing the woods. That behavior, in itself, is not evidence, but it also cannot be dismissed as irrelevant. We've seen other cases where individuals, never charged, still became the target of public outrage long before any formal accusation. The instinct for self-preservation in these moments isn't proof of wrongdoing. It's a survival mechanism. When someone realizes they can't win a game whose rules they didn't write, they walk off the board. A mother loses 2 children. She knows she has no way to prove her innocence, not with facts, not with witnesses. And if one person, just one, looks at her the wrong way, it might be enough to split an already fragile psyche into a single decision: to leave before someone speaks her name. If that's the truth, then the mother is not the offender. She's just someone caught in the crossfire between a justice system that hasn't spoken and a public that has already begun crossing her name off the list of the innocent. And sometimes, to protect yourself, You don't need to be hiding something. You just need to believe. No one's listening to the truth anymore. Some cases aren't just about who went missing. They're about who was made to vanish. Witnesses, facts, voices. Not because they refused to show up, but because they were deliberately removed from the picture. This final theory suggests that the mother of Lilly and Jack didn't walk away, but was taken out or advised to leave. Not to avoid public scrutiny, but to protect something more fragile. Her life, her testimony, or the integrity of an investigation that the public hasn't been told about yet. When Malehya withdrew from the area on May 3rd, just one day after reporting her children missing, there were no official bans, no court orders, no disclosed law enforcement action. And yet, there's been no sign that she's living as a free, public citizen either. No social media presence, no public plea, no family interviews. No one knows where she is, and no one can say for certain who helped her leave, or why. In high-profile cases across North America, there have been instances where critical witnesses were quietly removed, without formal statements, without public records. These weren't necessarily witness protection cases in name, but in function, they were. Some were voluntary exits, others were subtle operations, designed to protect individuals with key information or vulnerable positions. What if the mother saw something? Heard something, was threatened into silence by someone close? If so, her withdrawal wasn't avoidance, it was containment. And in some cases, law enforcement initiates that containment, urging family members to step away from the spotlight so that ongoing investigations aren't compromised. It's notable that RCMP has never criticized her disappearance. They've been careful, restrained, they haven't declared her a suspect, nor have they publicly pressured her to return. That restraint may not be leniency, it might be strategy. There's also the darker possibility. Someone else silenced her. Someone not under suspicion. Someone dangerous enough to make her vanish without a trace. In past cases, when the perpetrator was someone within the inner circle, survivors weren't always left alive. But those who were, learned to go silent. So maybe the question isn't what she did wrong. Maybe the question is, why doesn't anyone, even the media, know where she is? Why hasn't a single image emerged since that day? Why hasn't RCMP issued a public appeal for her return? In a case where everyone keeps asking, why did she leave? Perhaps it's time to ask a far more chilling question. Is she even allowed to come back? Weeks have passed since Lilly and Jack Sullivan went missing. Their names have been printed on hundreds of posters. Search efforts, day by day, hour by hour, have yet to return a single concrete lead. All that remains is silence, a long, puzzling silence. Their mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, left the area early on with her youngest child and has yet to reappear before the public. No press statements, no social media posts, not even a single message, however brief. To some, that might be a way of coping, a way of protecting what's left. But to others, that absence leaves behind a void that the theories cannot ignore. Though chilling possibilities have been laid out, though the gaps in logic have been explored, though history has shown us that sometimes the ones we least suspect are capable of unthinkable acts, we still have the right to hold on to one thing: that the worst-case scenario is not the only scenario, that somewhere, Lilly and Jack might still be alive, that they haven't disappeared from this world completely, just hidden away, perhaps by someone, or by a chain of events no one fully understands yet. And if hope is the last thing left in a case like this, then we must hold on to it, no matter how fragile, no matter how faint, because miracles have happened. There have been children found after weeks, months, even years. Children believed to be lost forever. We don't know what really happened, but if hope remains, then justice has not been sealed shut. And if Lilly and Jack are still out there, then our job is not to be silent, but to keep searching.